What is up, my friends? Today is a very special episode of Behind the Kit. Today I sit down with the incredible, the extreme, and the nice Mr. Alex Bent. Now, you may know Alex from his time in Trivium, but this guy has been all over the place playing with Archaic, Dragonlord, Decrepit Birth, just to name a few. He is an insanely talented drummer who can play all of the extreme metal, and he's also a very, very humble guy and an awesome friend, as well as an educator who's out there right now teaching people with private lessons. So make sure to hit him up and learn how to play just as extreme as he does. But with that, my friends, we're gonna jump right into this interview where we talk about how he got started, his time as a professional musician, and all of the advice that he has for us as we all chase our dreams to becoming the best drummers we can be. With that, my friends, I will be quiet and let's jump into this interview with Mr. Alex Bent. Welcome everybody to Behind the Kit. This is Kyle Smith, Arizona drummer, and I am joined with the one and the only Mr. Alex Bent. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Me too. I mean, God, you are one of the most well-known and prolific metal drummers in our industry. Just a total beast behind the kit. Thank you for making the time.
Oh man, like I said, I'm super stoked to be here, and seriously, thank you very much for the kind words and for having me on, man. That's awesome.
Of course. I mean, you started playing drums like super young. I have a similar background. I started when I was 8, but you know, what first kind of inspired you to grab the sticks? And then also, maybe a part 2 to that question is, what inspired you to go into such extreme metal? Because you are like a ripping drummer, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you know, let's see, I was around music pretty much my whole life. I mean, my dad is a musician, so I remember, you know, some of my earliest memories are being like really young, like 4 or 5 years old, going to his gigs, you know. So I was always around it, but it wasn't until I turned 11 that I decided I wanted to pick up a pair of sticks myself, and I just went for it. And it's funny because, you know, my dad, he was like, he would play, and then he would hand me like a guitar or a bass or something, and when I was younger, I wasn't really super, like, interested in music, you know, it hadn't hit me yet. But I was on my own one day watching music videos, and a music video came on for a song called Ocean Avenue by the band Yellowcard. For anybody that remembers like that era, you know, of like the kind of pop punk, you know, and that music video specifically kept showing the drummer every time he would do a fill, and that guy is still, you know, one of my favorite drummers to this day, but I had no idea what in the world he was doing. I just knew that it looked and it sounded really cool, so shout out to him and whoever shot that music video, because they were like, yeah, every time he does something, we're just going to pan the camera to him. And yeah, that was the one that I remember, like, pretty much right after I saw that video, I'm like running to my dad going, Dad, can you set up your old drum set? He had this old Pearl kit in the garage that was his, you know, a Pearl export. And I just was like, yeah, can you set it up? And he's like, sure. So he set it up, and he's like, okay, I'll show you like something very basic. So he showed me Billie Jean, you know, by Michael Jackson. They're just the beat. He like the kick, snare, or AC/DC. You know, so many songs have that beat. He's like, he showed me it, I got it down right away, and he basically was like, all right, cool, do your thing. He left, and I just was like, I started adding to that beat, and my goal was I wanted to learn Yellowcard songs, and I wanted to learn like Blink-182, all the stuff that was like very popular on the radio at the time for me. That was like the early 2000s. So all those bands, Green Day had just put out like American Idiot, Sum 41. So, that whole thing. My goal was like, I want to play that stuff. And then I started playing those songs not too long after I started. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm like really getting this down. What's next? Like, I want to keep having challenges. And, my Uncle JR was a huge metalhead. He still is. So it's like he was churning me on to metal. My dad is churning me on to a bunch of like funk and jazz and stuff. And the metal thing just kept on going and going. It started off with, Korn, Slipknot, and all the stuff that was on the radio at the time, Papa Roach, and I just kept going. I was like, well, what's faster? I heard Slayer, and I heard, started getting into the thrash, Exodus and Testament, and then I would say by the time, fast forward, I got to like high school, it was full on. I was into drummers like Derek Roddy, Nicholas Barker, George Callias. So high school, I was all, Nile, Hate Eternal, Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, all the black metal stuff. It was just like whatever was the fastest is what I was looking for. And I would say the main death metal record that changed my life was Decrepit Birth and Time Begins. That's the record that for me, once I heard that, I was like, okay, there's another level of drumming here that I want to like get into. So yeah, that's pretty much my path from picking up sticks to like, getting into the extreme stuff that people kind of know me for now. And like I said, along the way, my first drumming DVD was a Dave Weckl DVD. So I had all these like different influences and things going on all at the same time,
Absolutely. Like, you mentioned it. We actually had a very similar musical exploration, if you will. Like, I started with, Travis Barker and Joey Jordison, so just, Blink-182 and Slipknot. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best. And then, but as I got older, I started to get into black metal and death metal, like Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir. Like, you mentioned the album that, like, changed it for you. Like, one, it was Slipknot self-titles, what, like, I was like, I need to do this. But In Sorta Diaboli by Dimmu Borgir, when I heard, right, with Hellhammer on the drums, I was like, oh my God, like because it's like super fast and it's like really technical and like the drumming's really groovy. Like it's a nice mix, but like I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because a lot of people might not know this, but you were in marching band, concert band, and jazz band, I believe, right? All three?
Correct. Yeah, definitely. I was when I was 15, I was playing with the Modesto Junior College Jazz Band. So I was like 15, and like the people that I was playing with, I mean, there was literally people, because there's like a big kind of like the old school big band jazz vibe in the town that I'm in. So I remember I was playing some concerts on the weekend where like I'm 15, like I'm not even growing facial hair yet, and a lot of the band is like in their like 60s, like old school jammers, So, but to me, I just found that very exciting, I mean, especially because I grew up on drummers like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and Papa Joe Jones. Like that was my whole world. So as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like exactly where I want to be, doing marching band was not, I did it's funny, I did a year of marching band and I was on the tenors and I didn't really have the discipline at the time. So I kind of stepped away from it. But anytime, like, especially students or anyone like younger asks me, like, should I do marching band? I'm like, absolutely, because I wish I would have done it longer. Like, the year that I did of marching band taught me so much discipline, timing, like even all like the stuff that's not super fun, like the marching and stuff. It really helps you out, It's marching band is amazing, but I was more interested in playing the drum kit at the time. So jazz band for me was more, I was all about it. Like that was a zero period in high school. You had to show up extra early, but I was down. I was like, as long as I'm on a drum kit, like, let's go. And then marching band, I was like, oh, like, I have to carry these large drums and I'm marching in the sun. And then I'm always just like, I should have done it, you know? I learned so much, but I was just kind of a little knucklehead at the time, you know?
I know exactly what you mean. I think I did marching band for like a day. And it was, you know, I'm like 12 years old. I'm like, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to do my own, you know? Yeah. But to your point, like timing, sticking, you know, the being part of an ensemble, not just your own thing. Like there's so many skills you learn in marching band, but to your point, I was the same way. I'm like, I want to be on the drums. But I can
man.
I can imagine though, like jazz band, obviously you mentioned Dave Weckl. You know, obviously we talked about Hellhammer, we talked about Nicholas Barker. I mean, the full Gene Krupa, the full spectrum.
Yeah.
What were some of those like key players, those key influencers for you when you were getting started? Like these are the guys that are kind of setting the blueprint for me.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that I mentioned, and honestly, like, a lot of, like, you know, church drummers, like, the whole, you know, everyone knows about it now, like, oh, gospel chops this and gospel chops that, but, like, man, I remember, because Eric Moore was one of the main ones for me, because he's actually from my area, and I saw him play in person before, I think it was like right before those DVDs had even like come out, and all of a sudden every single person in the world was talking about gospel chops, gospel chops. Like I remember I had just kind of started playing because I was doing the Guitar Center drum off competitions, and you know, I was winning like all through my area, like the district, you know, all that stuff, and I was still very new to playing, and I was like, oh, cool, you know, like, I feel like I got this down, like, I feel like I'm pretty good, and then, like, I remember Eric Moore came to the Modesto Guitar Center, because they would have him, like, play, just to be like, yeah, this is the guy that won a few years back, blah, 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 and I remember, like, when he started playing, I didn't even know it was, like, possible to make drums sound like that, like, you know, I had never heard any metal or rock or jazz guy even make a drum. It was just like, it blew my mind. He played for like 3 minutes and he just like ripped. And ever since then, it was funny because like him and I, we like stayed in contact like from then until now. I was like 11 and he was always someone that like I would end up like going to his house and hanging out and drumming with him like all through the night, or going to like his family's churches and watching him play, or his brothers, or playing in church myself. And that really changed me as a player, because I feel like players like Eric Moore, Thomas Pridgeon, you know, the like quote unquote gospel chops guys, were the guys that I just felt were so outside of the box. No one could make drums sound like them. So that pivoted my entire like journey. I was like really, really into those guys. Chris Coleman, of course. You know, I don't know if I mentioned Tony Royster Jr., like all the main guys. And then I started going, okay, like who else is there, you know? And then you got guys like Mason Goodry and Mike Mitchell, you know, and like I just remember back in the day just following all these guys' careers, you know, and being like, wow, there's a whole world, you know, and it's awesome now, because now with social media it's really blown those guys up where everybody gets to watch them and experience it. But yeah, I remember being a kid and just being like, I thought that I was decent at this instrument and I suck, you know.
I know exactly what you mean. So I won't go too much into it because we could sit here and talk about it forever. But when for like 10 years, I kind of had to like put the dream on hold and focus on my daughter, my family, and all that stuff. But when I left the instrument, or left doing it professionally, I was still on my height of like death metal and black metal and, you know, fast as king. And then when I come back and I'm like, dude, Larnell Lewis, Stanton Moore, like, you know, all these just groovy, Nikki Glaspie, I mean, all these just really solid groove drummers that also have incredible chops. And I'm just like, nothing I do right now sounds anything like what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And it became like, you know, I remember when I left doing it professionally, Taylor Hawkins was somebody I really, you know, appreciated as a drummer, but I was like, he's just a rock drummer. He doesn't have, But then you come back to it in your 30s and you're like, Taylor Hawkins was a fucking badass drummer. Like, he is
so good.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, that ends up happening. There's, like, a lot of drummers and bands even that I remember back in the day being like, yeah, it's cool, but I'll pass. And then now I look back and I look at it from a different perspective, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is incredible, like, in so many different ways, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny. So, speaking of perspective and, you know, playing different stuff, and I think both of us being admittedly obsessed with the instrument, what was that moment for you when you realized, like, not only can I do this for the rest of my life, but, like, this is what I want to be my job. Like, this is how I want to spend my days.
Yeah, to be honest with you, literally the second that it clicked for me, when I asked my dad to set up that old drum set and I started playing, the second it clicked for me, when I started playing, you know, the Billie Jean beat or the AC/DC beat, I was like, this is what I want to do. I didn't see myself doing anything else outside of that, you know? And that's just always been my mentality, you know? I always just really stuck with it, and I, you know, didn't really have a backup plan, you know, and that's how I wanted it to be. I just was like, this is what I want to do, and I don't want to let anything distract me from what I want to do, because I feel it deep down in my heart, you know.
Absolutely. And it's funny because a lot of people say that professional drummers are like karate people, in the sense of they're a white belt that didn't quit. Like,
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Just keep getting your ass kicked. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. But
yeah, man.
To your point, there can't be a backup, because if there is, like, the excuse is too easy to grab.
Totally.
And it's funny because it's kind of a nice segue into, you talk about AC/DC, you know, 4 on the floor, you know, those riffs or those beats all the way up to extreme death metal. You know, obviously it requires extreme precision, speed, endurance. What are some of the things that you do in your practice routines, or whatever the case is, to help push you to those limits and you know, really be able to meet that demand that's necessary for that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I think obviously the exercises and stuff are great, you know, busting out that metronome and sitting there and seeing how long and persistent you can do single stroke rolls, all the stuff that a lot of, like, drummers, I think they naturally get. I mean, I could show you a million exercises with a metronome that's, you know, all right, trade 8 back and forth. Okay, now do single stroke. You'll see drummers do that all the time, but at the end of the day, I think the number one important thing, just like all music, is you have to actually do it. You have to, like, if you want to play technical, brutal death metal or whatever, you have to find guys that want to play that kind of music and that will push you in a real life scenario, you know. And that's music in general, I think, you know. Like, you can take a metal guy that wants to play jazz or groove, and it's like, that's awesome, you can try and practice it all you want, but, like, if you really want to get good at it, you should find yourself a really good funk bass player, or go to, like, an open jam and, like, test out what you're doing, you know, because it's going to be a lot different than you in your practice room trying to do it. So yeah, that's my philosophy or way with everything, you know, like, whatever style you're interested in, try the best you can to throw yourself in that real life scenario. Because, like, I was, all through high school, I was really into technical death metal, and I was playing along to all those records in my room, but the game changer for me is when I actually went out on tour with, you know, Archaic, which was, like, a real technical slammin' death metal band, like, some of the hardest stuff I've played, and it was like, holy crap, like, I'm actually gonna have to play this stuff every night, and I have to try and make it better and better. So that's when you really start to learn the little things, like breathing and relaxing and the stretches, the warm-ups, like how to warm up and how to not warm up too much, you know? Like, there's all these things that you only learn if you're actually doing it, you know, if you're actually out on the field. So that's my number one advice, man, is just try and go for it, you know? Even if you suck at first, just throw yourself in the deep end, and that's how you're going to get really good at whatever you pursue, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the saying that we have here on the channel is do the work. You have to do the work, right? And, like, it's funny you said that. So I've done now a couple dozen of these interviews, and you just said something that nobody else has said, but I identify with it 100%, which is that if you surround yourself with great musicians that have like-minded goals, they will help push you. And I've learned something from every band I've either been a part of or filled in, session work, whatever the case is, and it's always different, right? But they will push you in whatever direction that you either may or may not be aware of that you have a blind spot,
Absolutely.
And it's so funny, like the first band, I shouldn't say it, the last band I was just in, we put out an album, we went and toured, US and Europe, and prior to that I was mostly either filling in or doing like metal bands, where it's just fast. But this was a band where it's still punk and rock and metal, but it's a real singer. He's got like a Danzig type voice.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I ever got feedback of like, dude, I can't breathe. We need to slow down because I can't breathe. And I'm like, oh, like that's a really good point. So it just really caused me to like take a step back and like really think about. So even when everybody's like, speed up, go faster, I'm like, no. He's the singer, So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I do think that the people you surround yourself with and the music you create, whether you're playing somebody else's songs or you're writing your own, like that's the kind of stuff that, especially when you play with other people, that's where you learn the most, is
Absolutely.
in those interactions.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, for me personally, it's like a lot of the stuff I think that got pulled out of me was from other people, was from doing exactly what you're saying, surrounding myself with musicians that are way better than me. That's what I've always tried to do, and I'm very, very fortunate, just home for me, like my area, there's a lot of incredible musicians that I've always tried to like play with, pianists and organ players and bass players and all this different stuff. And like I said, I mean, Eric Moore, one of the best drummers, ever, is like, he was just someone that was like local that I was like, well, I want to hang out with this guy, not only because he's a phenomenal drummer, but he's like super cool and like takes me under his wing and like will let me jam with him at his house till 2 a.m. and be brutally honest with me too. That's the thing, is like, be like, bro, like, you need to work on this and that, or like, why do you feel like you're relying on that double pedal right there? Why don't you take that off? Like kind of like, but pushing me in like a brotherly way that makes me go, you know what? Like, yeah, you're right. So yeah, I am very thankful for everyone that I've surrounded myself with, all the musicians that have poured into me and pushed me and made me better, and I encourage everybody listening, do that, man. Like, if there's the drummer in town that's like way better than you and it's obvious, like, go hang out with that guy, pick his brain. Or if there's a guitar player that's like shredding and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm like good enough, it's like, screw it, man. Like, just go and talk to him and make friends with him. Everybody that I've played with is, I feel like I've tried to just aim for whoever's better than me, and then you'll level up. You'll have to, sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. Survival of the fittest, and it's funny because, to your point, like every tour I've been on, at the end of it, I'm usually texting with the drummers because we've become friends, or whatever it is. And that's what you want, though. Like, that's where the
Absolutely. Community
comes from. And sure, not everybody's going to, feel that way, but majority of people want to help you and guide you. And in my opinion, the best partner, the best friend, or the best whatever you want to call it you can have is somebody who will tell you straight up, like, that sucked, or or like, dude, you were sloppy today, or whatever it is,
Yeah, totally.
Because then you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize.
Or maybe you're in it, you're having a good time. But it's, that's kind of a good segue, because a lot of what we talk about on this channel is about what it takes to be a professional, right? What it takes to it doesn't matter what instrument you're in, but just what it takes to be at that level. And so part of that comes with auditioning and joining bands. And so I'm curious, like, how did the Trivium connection happen? How did you join the band? And then we could talk a little bit about what it was like being in the band, but like, what was that like joining the band, and what was the audition process like?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's most of it is relationships, it's relationships, it's building friendships and just being real with people, you know what I mean? And also being real enough with yourself to, like, be like, hey, is this, is this the right gig for me or whatever, even before you even go and audition and stuff, but yeah, I mean, the audition with Trivium was cool because it was very personal. It was through mutual friends. Producer named Mark Lewis, still a great friend of mine. I worked with him with the band Battlecross. We did a record together out in Orlando, Florida, with Audio Hammer Studios and Jason Sukoff. So I did that record, and then when Trivium needed a drummer, Mark Lewis recommended me, and so did another friend that was, kind of like a middleman for me in the band. His name's Sean Glass. He recommended me at the same time, so they both had two different people saying, hey, you should get this guy. So, that was cool, to have people up there going to bat for me, and again, that's just from making friends over the years. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty straightforward. I can't remember who had texted me. I don't remember. I think it might have been Paolo had asked for videos. So I hadn't heard. I mean, I kind of knew Trivium just from like hearing the riffs over the years, but I didn't like know any of the songs. So literally a day later, I had learned Rain and World Goes Cold, and I sent them videos, and they were super stoked. And then they called and were like, hey, you want to come down to hang out for like a couple weeks in Orlando? So I said, yeah, sure, So I went out, we jammed, and everything was just great, Like, I remember the first time we played through the first song, it was Rain, and everybody was just like, dude, yeah, like everyone was feeling it. Everyone was like super stoked. So yeah, it was pretty much right in there. They were like, yeah, if you wanna do this with us, like, we'd love to have you. So I did I jumped right into the European tour with them. I learned the European set. I think we were leaving within like a few weeks, and then we were writing all through that too. So we were writing stuff for like the Sin in the Sentence and all that, and that was pretty much the audition process. It was friends throwing my name in the mix, and them just going, all right, let's see what you got. So yeah,
that's all. And there's like no better compliment either than when you've done the work and you go in and you play with the band, and they're like, oh yeah, like that feels great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, like, yeah, it's funny too, because like I was doing so much session work at the time too, that I was like, if this works out, cool, but if it doesn't, that just means that it wasn't meant to be. So I tried to like take it with a grain of salt the whole time, like, and I still try to do that with everything that I do, so that I'm not giving my hopes up,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that. So I had a couple of fill-in gigs I did this year, as well as a couple of session things and auditions. Some of them went well, some of them didn't go well. That's just how it is. But it's one of those things where one of the auditions, I put my whole everything into it, and like to your point, I was like banking on it. I'm like, this has to happen. And when it didn't happen, I was crushed.
Yeah,
just like, no. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna get to audition, I'm lucky to even be in the room. So here's my best effort. If it works, that's awesome. If not, to your point, it's not the right band, not the right time, and we'll figure it out. And I've had the pleasure of filling in for a bunch of really great bands, and I'm happy I did, because now I'm more well-rounded, now I have more experience, and now for the next thing, I'm ready. So it's always a learning opportunity. It's always something you can get from, again, learning from the people you're with, whether it works out or not. You're gonna learn from that experience.
Totally. Yeah, man. I mean, that's how I try to do it, and like I said, with Trivium, I mean, it seemed like it was like right off of the bat, like they were like super stoked. So that made me feel good, because I didn't have a lot of time to learn the songs. I just was like, I'll do the best I can, I'll try and learn it to a T. And I came in and just like went for it, I was going for blood. And they were like, dang, man, like this is awesome. And then when we did the Sin in the Sentence, the first record I did with them, they got to see how I operate in the studio, like everything I guess was kind of like an audition, because I remember after the first European tour I did with them, it felt like that was the first part of the audition. Like, let's just see how things go on the road, because that's a big part of being a musician. You're living with people, and you got to see if the vibe is right. And after that first Euro tour, it was like, I remember Paolo was like, you crushed it, man. Like, you did like everything, you were great. And then the studio to me felt like it was like, okay, that's like where I'm going for like the knockout. You know, I want to try and knock it out of the park, and that was, you know, thank God it was probably to this day one of the best studio sessions I feel like I've ever had, where I was just so in the zone and just like going for it, you know. So a handful of like some one takers and stuff, and I can tell they were very, very stoked. And yeah, man, I mean, that whole thing, I guess, was like an audition process. There was never like an official like, here's your letter of acceptance, you know, like you passed it. It was just like, let's just keep on going and seeing how things are going. And there was never really like a discussion. It was just like, you know, you keep killing it and you'll stick around, you know.
Yeah, they're like, here's your certificate of passing, and
yeah, totally. Yeah, nothing really like formal, you know.
That's typically how it is. I feel like you hit it off, and then you pretty much just play together until you don't, and like that just
totally.
is what it is.
Man. Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of, you know, you obviously did a few albums with Trivium, and I'm curious, you know, you were with the band for several years, and we talked a lot about perspective and growth and changing kind of our styles, how we approach the instrument over time. Do you feel like over your years with Trivium, you saw your technique change or your playing like evolve into maybe parts that you weren't expecting it to over that time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's always happening, whether in the studio or live. You know, you might decide you want to start like hitting stuff harder, or you might want to have certain finesse in certain parts that are different, you know, like, I mean, I feel like I was always changing stuff, even like early on with Trivium, you know. Sometimes I'd go on tour and I'd have 4 rack toms. Sometimes I'd go and I'd have 2 if I was feeling that way, you know. That was really how I've always been, you know, but yeah, I would say my playing definitely, I started to, I think, approach things a lot more like a metal drummer. Like a lot of things I would focus on is how spot on can I try and be with the click track and things like that. Just little things that you start to focus on more because you're doing so much of that thing, you know? So yeah, I mean, those are the ways that I notice I would change here and there.
That makes perfect sense. And you mentioned click, so obviously, you know, the band's playing along to a click. In your in-ears, was it just click, or did you have vocals, full mix? Like, kind of what were you listening to when you were playing?
I had a full mix plus the click.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think it was like, I can't remember exactly how my ears were, but I want to say it was like maybe Corey in the right ear, Matt in the left ear, and then I think Paolo might have been center. And then the click is kind of center. And then a nice drum mix as well.
Of course. That's a must-have.
Of course, yeah. But I've heard of some drummers that, you know, literally don't even have, like, the band in their ears. They're literally just like, you play along to me. You know, I'm going to play and then you follow. Or some drummers that will, like, try to play along to the actual record, like with just like headphones, and then they're like, okay, the band has to hop on with me. I'm like, that just seems so weird, but I guess if it works for them, that's cool.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So like filled in with a couple bands, and then obviously was in a band where I toured, all different experiences. So the first band I filled in with was what you just said. It was the record with click. So click with a count in, and then I was playing to the record with the click on top. And so they were just following me. And then you go to another band I filled in with. It was click, vocals, and backing tracks, and that was it that I could hear. And then you go to the band I was touring with, no click, no backing tracks, no in-ears, just earplugs and a wedge. And
and you're just going for it. Yeah. That's crazy, man. They all have different experiences. There's pros and cons to all of them, you know? Like, sometimes I would sit there and I would see, like, you know, Dave Lombardo with Slayer, and I'm like, this guy has no in-ears whatsoever. He's just surrounded by freaking speakers that are blasting the band at him, and I'm like, that actually seems kind of fun. Like, I kind of want to try that sometime, you know, just have, like, you know, a completely different experience, you know. But most of the time with Trivium, it was, yeah, just direct in-ears. We had the molds, and, you know, you're getting more of like a studio experience while on stage doing it that way. So, yeah, I mean, they're all, you know, there's different ways to go about it. I think I started playing with a click track live in 2013 because I was playing with a band called Decrepit, and their music already is flying super fast, and I used to do it with no click, and then I would look back at the videos and be like, it felt like I was playing it at the normal speed, but instead I was going like way faster, and the songs were already really fast. So I was like, maybe a click track would help. And then I started playing with a click, and all of a sudden everything becomes way tighter, and you're like, okay, I don't have to like kill myself on stage, you know, like it's okay to kind of lean back on the click, and you're still flying. It's just that, you know, when you have that adrenaline, you don't realize how much you're pushing it, you know, until you see a video or something after, or someone at the end of the show goes, dude, that was really fast. Like, you could tone it back a little bit.
Seriously, and it's funny because that first band I was telling you about, where we did the album and the click, the first gig we did together, there was no click. We just played, you know, raw, and we played all of the songs 2-3 times faster than they normally are.
Yeah, totally.
And so I was like, guys, we should do a click. And they're like, okay, we can do a click. So I made it for them, and we're playing in the rehearsal, and they're like, this feels so slow. And I'm like, this is right, trust me.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their preference, and they're all awesome, you know, like a lot of like the technical death metal stuff that I did, everybody wants that click, you know, that's kind of the style, that's the feel. But it's like, when I was working with Testament, it was like, no one had a conversation about a click. It's like, what is that? You know, we don't operate that way. It's way more old school, and you want that human push-pull feel, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that was a completely different type of experience, you know. And yeah, I remember the first time I played with those guys, even I was like, ooh, yeah, that was fast. You know, I could pull it back a little bit, you know, like, but you get used to it. You kind of fall into place, and yeah, it makes you a better player. It makes you prepared for the next time, you know, like you're going to do something. You have a different perspective of like what you might need to do, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of experience and kind of building that and all, you know, basically the expectations around what that's going to take, I think with drumming specifically, but then especially extreme drumming, metal drumming, there's a big question mark sometimes around sustainability, you know, how to have the right techniques so you can have longevity on the kit, so you're not, you know, burning through your muscles and things like that. What's some advice that you might give to drummers that want to get into that world, just as far as how to maintain that level, but then also to produce that longevity of being able to do it for a long time?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I would say, of course, the obvious things, warming up, getting a really nice warm-up is important. Stretching is important. Hydration, you know. Yeah, perfect timing. It's like we planned that. You know, all those things are things that surprisingly get overlooked a lot of times. Like, I'll see some guys in, you know, situations like that where I don't see them stretch, or I don't even see them. They'll be drinking a beer or like something like that, which is like, fine, whatever, but like, you're not drinking any water. Like, dude, your muscles, like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but like, I don't know if that's a great combination, because you're gonna sweat, you're gonna burn a lot of calories, and you're doing something that's a lot on your muscles, and then you're not even gonna hydrate. So little things like that really go a long way. And as far as like longevity, I would say just being very careful with your body. A lot of it is like common sense, you know, like, you know, if you're gonna like exercise, try not to hurt yourself, try not to overdo it, you know, just remember that your body is like your tool for what you're trying to do. So if you are going too hard, you're like, oh, I'm gonna deadlift this weight or whatever, and then it's like, oh shoot, man, like now you pulled an important muscle in your leg or your calf or whatever. Every single muscle counts with drumming, you know, and you want, when you're doing extreme music especially, you're aiming to be relaxed. The more relaxed you are, the better you're going to play. So if you're like super tense, you're dehydrated, you pulled all these muscles because you're trying to lift heavy weights and stuff, it's like you're going against what you're trying to pull off. So that would be my thing, is little things like that, just being careful with your body, you know, and doing the obvious things. And other than that, it's really not rocket science, you know? It's like, just keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing and getting better, and take care of yourself, you know?
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I like to think of, especially as I get older, but I like to think about drumming as like, you're an athlete. Like, this is a marathon we got to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, to your point, I don't think drinking a beer before running a marathon is a good idea. So I don't think it's,
Yeah, or if you are going to do it, it's like, just make sure that you drink water too, you know? Like, do whatever, man. But like, you know, make sure that you're staying hydrated, or that like at the end of the night you're drinking those like hydration packets that could make your body feel like good, you know? Like I remember, especially in like the early days, like a lot of guys, I would be like, "Oof, I don't know how you're going to be able to sustain this long term," because it's just like, you know, like, hey, you got to take care of yourself, man. Like you said, it's like a marathon runner, you know? Like it's not rocket science. You don't have to go crazy, but you have to at least be like, okay, like I gotta take care of my body, you know?
Exactly. So like, outside of, taking care of your body, staying healthy, staying hydrated, outside of the physicality of everything, what, in your opinion, are some key skills, key strengths that somebody can display if they want to be a professional drummer? What are some like non-negotiable skills that those people need to have?
Outside of the actual instrument itself?
Yes, yeah. So assuming if you're in the room, you can play the drums. So what are those extra things that somebody needs?
Yeah, it's funny. Me and a close buddy were just talking about this the other day, because he was, he's kind of like an older guy, a producer, and he's like, yeah, like a lot of like younger people ask me that question, like, what do I need to do? Like, I have the skill, but I want to get in this industry and blah blah blah, and he's like, I tell them, just be real. That's like the main thing. Like, be real with people. Don't be the person that, sits there and trashes someone behind their back, and then the second that person walks in, go, good to see you, hey. Like, that type of stuff, man, honestly, like, I've seen it catch up with people, man, where I'm just like, dude, like, even if you don't like this person, it's not that everybody has to get along and it has to be rainbows and Skittles and it's this happy. It's like, hey, if you don't like someone, whatever, like, you don't have to be friends with them, but like, don't be fake, because that's just like, people will sense that. People will be like, something is off here, So I tell people that. I'm like, you got to be real with people and like with yourself too, like, I think that's a big thing that gets overlooked. A lot of people think that you have to like fake it till you make it, and that only gets you so far until people start to go, something stinks here, something is off, So honestly, that would be my big thing, is like, try to be genuine, try to be real, and like, just try to be a good person. Like, honestly, it sounds kind of like cliche and like, oh, you're like preaching to the choir or whatever, but like, it's a big thing, man. Like, I think people, they start to get this idea that like, yeah, I gotta like put on a facade to like make it or whatever. It's like, dude, it's the opposite, man. That's not gonna last, So yeah, that would be my advice, to answer your question. Aside from being on the kit, what's next? Try to just connect with people in a real, genuine way, and there's going to be people that you might not always click with, and that's okay. It's okay, like, go where you feel like you belong. So there you go.
No, I agree with that 100%. And it's funny, because something I like to say is a professional drummer, professional musician is also a professional human being.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Like, and one of the quickest way to lose a gig is to be a dick, or be dishonest, or be unprofessional, or whatever it is, right? And it all comes back to like that connection, because you said it earlier, can we tour together? Like, that's a really important question. Like,
100%, man.
We're gonna be on the road together for 2 months, whatever it is. We're gonna do the fun part for an hour and a half, maybe every day if we're lucky, and all the rest of that time we gotta put up with each other.
Man. Yeah, I mean, I've heard some insane stories of drummers that are like up in the top 1%, like unbelievable musicians that like have gotten hired for like some of the biggest gigs, and were telling other people like, you know who I am, like that person would never fire me. And just because that person heard that, they fired that drummer before the gig even happened. Like, before they even hit the stage. Like, no, that's not the kind of people I want on my team, you know, that big-headed, arrogant. So, like, skill is one thing for sure. Like, make sure your skill's good, but also just try to make sure that, you know, your people skills are good, you know? Like, that you're not going and causing problems on the bus, or just even, like, basic things, like a roommate, you know? Like, making sure that you're just being mindful of the people around you, you know?
100%. Like, we're coworkers, we're roommates. Like, you know, pick up your dirty socks. Like, you know,
it's stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. You know, like,
be a good person.
yeah, totally. You know, like, you'll see some bands that, like, they've been touring together for 30 or 40 years, and it's like, it looks like one of those, like, marriages that they just tried to make work just for the sake of, like, you know, whatever, but, like, they hate each other so bad, and you can see it, you can sense it. You're just like, this is miserable, man. This just doesn't even, like, seem like it's worth it. You know?
Absolutely. So we're getting a little close on time. Unfortunately, I have another one I got to jump to, but I always like to do a little bit of a lightning round at the very end, and then we'll close with just sharing with everybody what you've got going on and how they can reach you and stay in touch with you. But I'll keep it to 3 lightning round questions, because otherwise I'll sit here for hours and we'll.
Yeah, same here.
But all right, so the first one: what is the favorite drum kit setup you've ever used playing live?
Playing live, oh boy. I would just say my usual that I would rock with Trivium, or really any metal band. Three racks on top, 2 floor toms, 8, 10, 12, 16, 18, 2 22-inch kicks, and usually a 14 by 6-inch snare, all preferably Tama. I love the Star Classic Maples. Those are incredible. That would be my dream setup right there.
Yeah, I mean, you just described the perfect setup. What is one of your albums or a song, one album or song that you use to push you in your practice regimen to, like, really kind of get the gears turning?
And Time Begins by Decrepit Birth. That's the one for me, that even to this day, the moment I first heard it, I was blown away, and then when I try to play along to it these days, I'm still like, geez, man, this is hard.
Well, kudos to you, because I wouldn't even be able to play that song one time through. I mean, I could try, but
yeah, that's all I do. I'm not saying I nail it. I'm saying I attempt. But shout out to Matt Sotelo for being such a pioneer with that style, man. Such a great record.
Could not agree more. All right, last quick round question. I'll let you pick. So it'll be one of two. Either one, what is a memory that comes to you that still gives you chills, or what is a memory from being on tour that you think of that you're like, this was the worst thing that's ever happened?
Worst thing that's ever... Oh my goodness. Oh man, I'll try and make it quick because I don't want to get too into stories. Okay, I would say best, honestly, is probably playing in Argentina, which is a place that I always wanted to go and play, and the crowd. This was with Trivium a couple years ago, and honestly, just being in a place where you could feel the energy full on before you even stepped foot on the stage was unbelievable. And then it just all feels like it was this insane dream, you know. The whole show, the whole thing was incredible. To me, that was probably one of those moments. And then, of course, it would be a tie between that or when I played Loud Park Japan with Testament. Those were like the ones where I still can't even believe that those shows happened, and it feels like a dream. I have to pinch myself and be like, yeah, that was real, man. That actually happened. Real quick, I guess the worst thing that happened to me was getting a gun pulled on me and the band. Hopefully I could say the story. If this is too much, you can cut it out. But yeah, loading out of a venue in New Orleans with Archaic. We were loading out of our trailer. A guy pulls up, starts laying on the horn, telling us to move. We said we couldn't move. One of the guys in the band said something to him or flipped him off or whatever. He got out of his car, pulled out a gun and put it in our face, made us move, and then we literally just took the, like, I can't remember who hopped in the van and closed up the trailer and moved it, and then the guy put his gun away and drove off, you know, but it was pretty tense. I think I was like 19 years old, and I was like, whoa, this guy is pointing a gun in all of our faces because we can't move right now. That was, I mean, it wasn't like traumatizing or anything, but the singer at the time and I were talking about it recently, like almost kind of laughing. I brought it up and I was like, do you remember when that guy pulled a gun on us? And he's like, kind of, but it was so long ago. Like, we were just like laughing, you know. I'm like, yeah, dude, like crazy stuff like that happens when you're touring in a van. You never know what characters you're gonna come across and crazy stuff like that. But, you know, you build memories for better or for worse.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know we're close on time, but when we do part 2 of this, I've got some stories I got to tell you about, because that's insane. But
yeah, dude, they never end. Yeah, so the stories will come to your head. You'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. You know, we'll have to go back and forth next time on that.
Absolutely, but I don't want to close without giving you a chance to let everybody know what you've got going on, what you're working on, and how they can stay in contact with you and stay up to date on everything that's going on. So, floor is yours. How can everybody stay in touch with you?
Yeah, man, absolutely. All the content stuff, I'm getting ready to hit that hard. You know, more playthroughs, a lot of Instagram content. Alex Spent Drums. You know, you can find me on Instagram. YouTube, that's definitely going to be picking up. That's kind of my focus right now, is really just trying to, now that I have the time, dive into that. I would love to get back on the road as soon as possible. You know, I love touring. I love playing in big bands. So I'm a free agent, you know. If anyone calls me, it's like, hey, let's go. Let's rock and roll, you know. But in the meantime, keeping myself busy with just, you know, the studio set up, kind of building a studio right now that's going to be done real soon, and then I'm just going to be slamming the internet with as much content as I can, and I hope that you guys will enjoy it and follow me. And yeah, if you want to find me, like I said, Alex Spent Drums. I try to stay easy to find and get a hold of. Oh yeah, teaching as well. I'm teaching so many people. I'm teaching people in literally Saudi Arabia. I'm teaching a guy from Singapore today, online lessons. I'm really easy to get a hold of, so anybody that wants to do lessons or even just hang out and talk like this, like you and I did, hit me up, man. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Awesome. Well, I'll have all that linked below so people can check you out. But in the meantime, Alex, thank you so much. I will hit you up for part 2. And yeah, just thank you for your time. I really, really enjoyed this.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome. I can't wait for part 2. I gotta start thinking of the crazy stories now. we gotta put a list together from both of us.
That's right. I will send you, right after this, I'll send you a DM so we can talk about when we can make that happen. But in the short term, just thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, we'll talk soon, man.
You too, brother. Thank you.
All right, dude.
See ya.